once again, welcome back to the Dr. Balmer channel. For those of you who have joined me in my previous episodes in this series of overclocking the ASUS GTX 950, in the last episode we actually managed to beat the world record for the combination of CPU and GPU. And for those of you who don't remember or haven't seen my previous videos, I can tell you that the CPU-GPU combination is an AMD A10-7850K running at 4.2 GHz and an ASUS GTX 950. We beat the world record by applying 120% power target or power limit, and a GPU core clock offset of 150 MHz, and also the memory we haven't yet touched. So yes, and I thought that here in Precision, let's try to increase the core clock further. I have no idea where the limit is, but based on the previous scores that we saw in the Hall of Fame on 3DMark for FireStrike and TimeSpy, I would assume we are nearing in on the limit here for the core, but so far we haven't really hit a limit. So instead of increasing by 50, let's increase to 175. Apply this. Okay, and yes, let's run a FireStrike bench first. We will run the 1080 Full HD benchmark. So it will run for a minute, and let's see here. Currently we are at 48 degrees GPU, but it's a cold boot, so the GPU is pretty cold so far. We're up to 52 degrees, and yeah, soon the benchmark is finished. So 54 degrees, 55, 56, yes. So it won't reach steady state on the GPU temperature in the 1 minute FireStrike test, but that's okay. And what have we got then? 2368. Okay, let's compare this with the previous scores. Okay, so for reference, in the beginning, on the stock run, we got a score of 2087 points in FireStrike with an average FPS of 35. Then at 150 MHz core offset and maxed out power limit, we got 2344 and FPS of 39. And now today's score is 2368 and an FPS average of 40. So we went from 44 to 68. So yeah, not a huge uplift, but we also only increased the core offset by 25 MHz. Okay, so great. Let's we'll skip the GPU-Z for now, I think, and we will jump right into 3DMark, because we can see the GPU core clocks there as well. So yeah, let's do that. And here we are, and as usual we will start with FireStrike. And FireStrike, we haven't yet reached the top scores. I don't remember what rank we had in the Hall of Fame, but I believe we were in position place 19 or 17 or something. That was a couple of weeks ago perhaps, but so I don't know if anything has changed, but let's try to see what we get now. And it would be really nice if we could get further up the stack, so to speak, in the scores. Okay, we're back, and so let's see here. We got an excellent score according to 3DMark, and with excellent they mean 5469. Yeah, the best score is still 5725. So we have a bit left there to go before we reach this. And let's have a look here what we got. GPU temperature 5866. That's good. And GPU clock frequency, let's see here, 1503, and it's flat, so that's good. Okay, let's compare this score and see how good this actually is or not. One moment. Yeah, first we can just quickly compare our previous values in FireStrike. So now we got 5469, so gained 65 points. GPU score has passed 7000, so that's nice. Physics score is almost 5000. This should be more dependent on the CPU, I think. And the combined score is 2150. So in the Hall of Fame here, then, for the FireStrike on this CPU and GPU combination. Last time was November 4th, and we got a score of 5404, and this is now 20th place. Previously it was 19th. And this is because we have submitted another score now. So we have passed these two scores and now ended up at rank 17. Today is November 21st. Okay, that's great. We don't need a whole lot of points to reach the next step up. So I'm hopeful, and should be very interesting. Okay, so let's continue with TimeSpy. Yeah, so in TimeSpy we already have the #1 position for our GPU and CPU combination specifically, which is great. And if you remember from last time, or if you don't, I can just remind you that we were close to 2000 points in the overall score, and if we could get past 2000 points and extend our lead in the table, that would be awesome. So let's allow this to run and see what scores we get, and if this benchmark will run at these clocks. Hopefully we won't crash. Alright, loading result. Exciting. Oh yeah, we have passed 2000 points. So 2013 points. And this is legendary according to 3DMark, which is of course awesome. So the best score, yes, and still let's have a look at so the max temperature 63.5 degrees, and the core clock on the GPU is still 1503, almost 1504. Yes, great. And let's see how this fares with the previous score. So just a quick comparison here. We had 1996 before, and now we have 2013 points. Overall, the GPU score jumped up from 2004 to 2021, and the CPU score jumped also up a bit to 1972. And here we can see it on the 3DMark Hall of Fame for TimeSpy. So the last two scores here, we can compare them, and yeah, so looking good. And let's jump right into pushing it further. Then I have opened FireStrike Precision again. Let's push this to 200. Apply, save, and we'll start by running the yeah, we have 3DMark open, so let's start with FireStrike again, and I'll see you once it has finished. or crashed. We don't know yet, so. Alright, so it didn't crash, that's good. And, I believe we have jumped a bit in the score. Let's have a look. And also before that, let's just check the temperatures. And 58.72, so 59 degrees. And the core clock was 1528 megahertz. Okay, let's compare our scores. Okay, so here we are at rank 15 now, and our previous score was here, 5469. So we have jumped up a couple of positions, and let's see here, 5531. We need 5554 and 5559 to get past the next couple of two ranks. And yeah, great. We're closing in as good as we can, and let's jump right into TimeSpy then. Right, very interesting to see what we get from TimeSpy. We got quite a few points actually when we went from 175 to 200 megahertz offset on the core in FireStrike. So let's see if TimeSpy responds in the same way. Alright, it seems that we did run into an error. It says so up here. I don't see any other reason for it other than perhaps we have reached sort of a clock frequency limit on the core. So yeah, FireStrike perhaps wasn't as taxing of a load on the graphics card. So let's see what yeah, it sort of failed here. it stops here for some reason, yeah. And then we had 1528 megahertz on the core. Okay, so perhaps we can't reach that 200 megahertz. But just to be sure, I will run it once again. I will pause momentarily, and if we get an error again, then we know that it is definitely the overclock of the core here that's giving us some issues. And in that case, we will dial it back a bit and try again. So yeah, I'll be back once it has finished or crashed again. Alright, so now this run is actually finishing. There is a bit more noise in the background because I turned on this orange fan, which blows air into the GPU. Let's see if we get a score now or not. Oh, we did get a score now. I will turn off the fan. Yes. Okay, I would just suspect that we're on the limit here of our GPU core overclock. But we did get this to run this time. Although 3DMark now has lost internet connectivity or something, it has lost the average and best scores. So 2038. Let's just see in our notes if that's even higher or not than previously. Okay, so indeed we did get a higher score on both the overall, the GPU and the CPU, but we failed once. So yeah, so I wonder if that fail was because of the overclock or 3DMark itself. I would suspect because of the overclock, so perhaps 200 megahertz isn't 100% stable. So yeah, but let's compare this result online and see if we can still upload it there. Yeah, it was possible to upload the score, so we have 2038 here, and submitted today. So yes, and the FireStrike. So I shall close this, and let's try to run the FireStrike bench like we did before. Yep, it's running. Almost finished now. Let's see. It hasn't crashed at least. And we got 2385. let's see how that compares. Yeah, so on 175 offset on the core we got 2368, 40 FPS, and now we have 2385. So yeah, a little bit more, and we didn't crash, so that's good. But I'm thinking, so if we are somewhere at the very edge of stability, perhaps we can verify that. We should run 3DMark, increasing the core a little bit more by 5 or 10 megahertz, and see if TimeSpy crashes again on us. So let's do that. Yeah, so I'm sort of starting 3DMark at the same time that I have Precision open. We're at 200 offset on the core. Let's try 205. Apply. And then if we run, let's see here, TimeSpy, and yeah, see, we should crash if we were at the very limit. So I'm hoping for a soft crash like I had before, that we get 0 points and not that the driver fails and resets or something, but we'll see. And if that's the case, then we will dial back to perhaps 195 core offset and try to increase the VRAM frequency. So let's see if we get a score. Oh yeah, 2039. So it didn't crash. I wonder why we crashed before. Perhaps I changed the frequencies with 3DMark open and it didn't like that. So yeah, what kind of let's see here, GPU memory, GPU core clock 1533.78. yeah, so yeah, okay, 2039. Perhaps we weren't at the limit then. Perhaps it was just that 3DMark didn't like the change in frequency at the same time that we had it open. I shall note this and I will push it further. So I have noted this down. So we got only one single point here extra from the 200 megahertz offset on the core. So yeah, but okay, let's continue. We will let's put an offset of 215 perhaps on the core. So doing it like this, then 215, everything else the same, and then we open the 3DMark again. So yeah, very interesting actually. Of course we didn't gain a lot with the 5 megahertz extra that we set on the offset, but this time. But now let's see what happens now with the 215 on the offset. One would assume we should crash if we were at the edge of stability previously. So okay, TimeSpy. And we run the TimeSpy now because we know that it was the one failing before. So let's see here. No. Now we crashed. Okay. Yeah. So that's that was a core clock of let's see here, 1075. That can't be right. Okay, so I didn't like that. That's good. So maybe I think that before we move on to memory overclocking, we should dial this back. So 200 gave us an error once, so that's on the at the edge of stability. If we leave it at 200, then we can't really be sure after that the memory caused the issue at the next crash. We keep pushing the memory, and we have the core at 200. So let's try 195. Yes, and I will run this, and and then we'll see if it stays stable. So yeah, but since we got a crash at 200 megahertz offset, which we didn't get on 175 or so, then let's dial it back a bit, because yeah, the high scores are great, but we need some stability here for the further testing, so to know with confidence that either the memory or the core caused the issue, the next issue. So yeah, let's see how this goes, if 195 is any good or not. Hopefully we get a score. 2032. So 2039 was the best one that we had on 205 megahertz offset. So now we are at 2032. So yeah, I think it's worth for the sake of stability. We were at 1523.5 megahertz on the GPU core. So yes, okay, I shall note this. Yes, so we have the 195 offset core here. So we did gain at least 19 points or so from the 175 core offset, and we're only 7 points away from the 205 core, yeah, there wasn't a huge difference here, and then we crashed into 15. So, and since the 200 one crashed once as well, that doesn't feel good for the continued overclocking of the memory. So yes, so let's say 195 at this point, and let's see what we get on a FireStrike. So on 200 core we got 5531. Let's see what we get on 195. I'll run it and then I'll be back once the score is in. Okay, now the scores are loading for the 195 core offset run. Okay, so 5506. Let's see how that compares to our previous scores. Okay, so the results are, in comparison, are looking like this. Compared to the 175 core offset, we did gain quite a few points, but compared to the 200 core offset, we did lose quite a few points as well, but not too much. I think that we'll run at 195 then currently, and then we will start to mess around with the memory, the VRAM overclocking, and start to push that a bit. And that's the topic of the next video. So I think we did good progress today. We got some good scores. We're only about 219 or 220 or so points away from the top score in FireStrike. In TimeSpy we have the first place, we're ranked first, and that's really nice actually. I didn't expect that, but it was fun, and yeah, so I suppose that ultimately, once let's say we run a 195 core and now we start pushing the VRAM, and once we find the limit there where we're getting artifacts and stuff, we can try to, for instance, run FireStrike on a higher core clock. We can do that as the very last thing we do with this graphics card. And in this overclocking adventure here, and yeah, that way, since FireStrike seems to be not as intensive of a load, perhaps if we can run a higher core clock without crashing perhaps a FireStrike, then we can aim for getting the as high as a score as possible. But first I would like to see the highest stable clocks for core and memory. So yeah, I like when things are stable, so we can do that first, and then we can always push for last couple of points at the very end. Oh yeah, we have one thing left actually. We can run the FireStrike test. Yeah, so before we end this video, which has been I've had a quality time making this video, just having some fun with the bench here, and with you guys and gals, and finding the limits of this graphics card. So let's just see what we get on the FireStrike benchmark. Okay, and we got 2384. 2384. Let's just see how it compares. So on 175 core offset we had 2368 points. Now on 195 core offset we got 2384, and on 200 megahertz offset we got 1 point more. So yeah, not a huge difference there between 195 and 200. Alright, so I will end this video here. I had a really great time, and yeah, I hope you want to join me in the next one as we start pushing the VRAM and see if we finally can beat that FireStrike #1 Hall of Fame score. So thank you for watching, and join me in the next one. Bye bye.